right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
How's everybody doing out there? Everybody can unmute and talk at this point. Welcome to the April 23rd Photo SIG meeting for the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group. I'm Jeff Scheibe, the president of the club right now. And this morning, we're going to talk about some of the new additions to Adobe Photoshop 2024, the new version.
Jeff, excuse me. You may want to correct the date. I think it's April 27th today.
Oh, April 27th. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Pete. Now, many of you probably do not use Photoshop, but I'm sure you might be curious on what kind of additions Adobe is putting into Photoshop. And most of the additions have to do with artificial intelligence capabilities. And the artificial intelligence capabilities that they've added in are extremely powerful. And they save an editor, a Photoshop editor, tons of time. I did a picture yesterday that I redid a picture yesterday. So I edited this picture a few years ago where I went and took, it was a picture from Egypt in front of, well, actually Jordan, in front of Petra. And there's a lot of people, tourists in the scene, and wanted to take them all out. Well, I edited this a couple of years ago with an earlier version of Photoshop, and it took me a good 5 hours to remove all the people in the shot. Yesterday, I opened up the original image with all the people in it still, and it took me 10 minutes compared to 5 hours. And the results were just as good, if not better. So artificial intelligence, not only does it give you more capabilities, but it gives you, it's a huge time saver. And hopefully I'll have a couple of examples of that for you this morning. And at any point during my presentation, please just stop me and ask questions, unmute, ask questions, theoreticals, anything. It's more of a discussion. So let me share Adobe Photoshop, the screen. And hopefully here we're looking at a picture. This is a picture of my cousin and her nephew. And you can see they're at a festival or something outside, outdoors. And it's not a great background. But I'm going to show you how to get around that. But meanwhile, I'm going to stop share. We're going to go back to share. I'm going to go to my my list here, my pages list. Okay. So some of the new things in Adobe Photoshop 2024 is that I don't know if you've all realized, but Adobe about 2 years ago added the capability called generative fill into Adobe Photoshop. And generative fill is an AI function that allows you to type into a suggestion on what you want to see. And you'll be seeing that here this morning. And it's based, the artificial intelligence of generative fill is based on Firefly, Adobe's artificial intelligence generation system. And up until a couple of days ago, this was based on the initial version 1 of Firefly. And they completely skipped version 2 in Adobe Photoshop, and now that you have the connections into Firefly version 3. And the improvements between Firefly 1 and Firefly 3 are pretty significant in what the AI is capable of doing. For instance, in Firefly 1, you would ask it to maybe add a person to a scene, and it would add a person in, and they might look semi-realistic, but if you look down at their hand, they might have 6 fingers on one hand and 3 on another. So it wasn't quite perfect, where now it's pretty good. Another capability they've added in is that generally with the generative fill, you're typing in a prompt and asking it to generate something based on that prompt. But now they've added a new capability called Generate Similar. So you could find either a past picture that you have or something off the internet. And let's say that that is similar to what you were hoping to get. You would say, generate something similar to this picture. And it uses that as an example to use for the AI to generate a new image. Another button improvement is a background replacement. So Adobe, with the selection schemes in Adobe Photoshop, you can go in and select things from your photograph, like the subject might be a person, or you might use an object select and select the car, and it would select the car. And if you select something, you can delete the background, so it's just that subject that's being kept in the image. And then you can hit a button, background replacement, and it will generate a new background for you with that subject in the front. And what's important here is that when it's generating these generative fill or replacements, is that it looks at all kinds of things that would be very critical to make the image look photorealistic, such as the perspective of the image, and the lighting. Is the lighting coming from the right or from the left? Is it daylight? Is it sunlight? Or shadows? Or is it nighttime? The AI looks at your original image and analyzes all those items in the original image. And when it builds the generative fill section, the background, let's say, it brings in all of that information and uses it to build that image. So if I have lighting, if I'm the subject and I've cut me out and I'm going to do a background replacement, it's looking at the lighting and my perspective and my size, and then it generates the image behind me using that. So the lighting, it might be a sunset and it's going to be on my right side, because, as we're looking at me here in the zoom image of me, I've got lighting on the right side of my face. Left side of my face is darker.
We're
So
not seeing that. We're not seeing that, Jeff. We're just seeing your side.
look at the little box in the participants.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't have my, I got this other screen up. So in the, just for instance, I've got lighting right now on the right side of my face because my windows are over here. But so the generative fill would take that into effect. Something else that they've added, enhanced resolution. So when the AI generates a new image for you, currently it's limited to a lower resolution, 1080p resolution. So today's cameras that we're shooting with are capable of shooting 4K, 8K pictures. So the resolution of your subject might be much higher than the resolution of the generative fill portion of the image. And I guess that's going to be a limitation for a little while. But what Adobe did this time is that they gave you the capability of enhancing the resolution of the generated image using their technology that just doubles and triples the amount of pixels in an image. That's been built into Adobe Photoshop for a number of years. So now they've added that capability to use it within the generative image. You can also generate a brand new image. So I might have a blank screen, and we can generate a brand new image either by typing in the prompts or by using a reference image. So let's say I want to generate a kind of an artistic image, and I want something of a cathedral. I can use a reference image of another cathedral from Italy or something. Just say, okay, build me an artistic image of a cathedral based on this reference image. And the AI will use that to generate the new image. And that's the next step down there is generate image. The previous version of Photoshop with the AI could not generate an image from complete scratch with a blank screen. Now you can. And you can generate an image from prompt or a reference, either in an artistic manner or in a photographic manner. So you have your choice. Something that's been there for a little while is generative expand. So if you have an image and it's not quite wide enough or tall enough for your purposes, and you'd like to, maybe you wish that, the original image was wider and had more on the sides, you can now just take the crop tool and drag the crop tool bigger. So now you have blank spaces on the side, and then hit generative expand. And it will look at the image and build new sections of that image for you. Either top, bottom, left, or right. It can build a new section. So now you've made your image wider for your purposes. Maybe you need to put it on the cover of a magazine and it wasn't wide enough or something. So you can add to it by generative expand. The next thing, adjustment brush. This is a capability, within Photoshop, you have the capability of making all kinds of different adjustments, brightness, hue, saturation, all kinds of different adjustment tools that are built into Photoshop for adjusting an image, whether it's a Photoshop or artistic image or something. And you have the capability of going in there and building adjustment layers and then making adjustments. And then you can mask that out so that the adjustment only affects the area that you want it to. So like, for instance, I'm talking to you right now, my background might be brighter than I am. I can, within Photoshop, I could take that picture, select the background, and use an adjustment tool to lower the brightness of it or the contrast or something. So I could do that through Photoshop. But now they've enhanced that capability with the adjustment brush. So now you have the paintbrush within Photoshop. You can now grab your paintbrush and paint in the adjustment. So you can choose an adjustment that, let's say, a lower brightness, and I can paint it in to the areas that I want that lower brightness to be. So it just makes the capability you had easier to do. And then finally, they've made improvements to the text tool, where you can choose a text tool and add text to an image. Now you have the capability of connecting to Adobe and using all of their fonts that they have, which, Adobe over the years has always been a source for fonts. They've created literally thousands of different fonts, and they're available normally for purchase. Some of them are free, but some other ones you have to purchase from them. And if you want a font, you go out to Adobe, find the font you want, either purchase it, or if it's for free, download it, and then install it into your Photoshop for use. And then you could use it. But now with the new text tool, I can grab the text tool and click, and then you get you have a choice of the fonts that are loaded on your computer. There might be 100 of them. You could have a lot of fonts, and you could choose through those fonts, or you can go down and say, click more fonts, and it would go out and connect to Adobe's site for fonts and look through their thousands of fonts to find one that you like, and click that one, and it will download it and install it automatically for you, and give you the capability to use that font immediately. So it just makes things much easier, much quicker. But let me go ahead and open up Photoshop. I'm going to stop this share, and we'll share my Photoshop screen. And here's a picture of my cousin and her nephew, I guess my second cousin. And it's a cute picture. They look like they're dressed to be somewhere other than standing in front of a bunch of porta potties. So it's a great picture, but the background is not great with the porta potties. So I'd like to change that. Now you could, in the past in Photoshop, I could go in and use different tools and get rid of those porta potties, change the background, but it would take me hours, especially if I wanted to make it photorealistic. But now I'm going to use the generative AI and change the background. So you can see down here on the bottom, they've got a little tool now that is movable. And this is where you work with the generative AI. So I can go in here and select the subject, and Adobe's AI function has gone in. You can see, I don't know if you could see it, it might be hard to see, but there's a little marching ants, the selection around the subject here. Unfortunately, it's also grabbed this subject over here. I do not want that selected as part of the subject. And I believe to get rid of them, I just come up and I could deselect him. I thought there's a new tool for that. Now maybe this is all brand new. This is only a couple of days old, so I'm just getting used to it. But let's forget about that. I'm going to go up and use an object selection tool and come in and grab. You see how I've got an object selection tool and it's selecting my cousins? But we're going to go up and do a select subject, and hopefully it just grabs them. Oh, it grabbed him too. That's all right. We'll leave him in there. There is a way to delete this additional subject that I didn't want, but I don't see how to do it initially here. But let's go to generative fill. And I type in generative fill, and now I can type in a suggestion. So let's say Sandy Beach. And I say generate. And you can see up here, it connects to Adobe's servers and using their AI over the internet. So at this point, you need to have an internet connection to do this. And it's generating some suggestions. And you can see over here, oh, I'm sorry, I gotta inverse that selection. So it's substituted my cousins instead of the background. But here on the right side, you can see that it has created three versions, and you get to choose which version you want to use. None of them are what I'm looking for, so I'm gonna just delete them all. Just go undo. Revert. All right, why is it not going to find me? Okay, this is the beta version, so it might be a little bit buggy at this point, and it is giving me a little trouble. There we go. Get back to the original image. I'm gonna just click on remove background here. And there we've removed the background. And unfortunately, I do have this guy over here, but we could, I think if I clicked on him now, I could maybe delete him. No? Okay. Let's go and let's do a generative fill now. And here I'll type in Sandy Beach. And hit return and let that generate. And hopefully now it'll fill the background with something like a sandy beach. And get, okay, I deselected the top. But, you know, just for an idea, you could see here how it looks like they're now standing in the sand. And in the original image, normally this would all be filled and this would be water out here. I must have deselected the background when I was clicking around. But let's just ignore that for now. You can see here that the original image, the lighting was coming from, as we look at it, right to left. As you can see in my second cousin's face here, Landon's face, the lighting is on the left side of his face. So look where the shadows are that the AI put in. They're coming left to right. So it put the shadows in the right direction. And the perspective, if you understand perspectives, it has created the correct perspective here, the angle of the beach going away from them with the camera angle. It's the right perspective for them to be standing on that beach. And you can see here we have 3 choices. So I kind of like this one the best. But if I didn't like any of these 3 choices, I can go up here and hit generate and generate new ones. And hopefully, you know, this time it wouldn't, I wouldn't have deselected the background there and it would fill the whole complete image in. And it normally does. I just made a mistake there when I deselected the background. But you could see how quickly I was able to get rid of those porta potties and put them in a much more desirable background. And in this case, it's kind of appropriate. You know, they're wearing like beach clothes, so, you know, let's put them on a beach. On the right side here below, you can see with Photoshop, we're building layers and masks to do this. And if this was the complete image, you know, even with this top generated, and it all filled in properly, I could just go then and just merge these down, make a single layer out of it, and then save the picture. So very simple to do, very fast. Let's see if I can get this to work with a couple of other examples. I'm going to close this. Don't save. And let's see if I can. Here's a picture of my dad and my great niece. There we go. And here we can remove the background and do the same thing, you know, so there's a parking lot behind them with some cars in it, not too desirable. But we can remove the background. And just generate a new background. And let's type in grassy field and generate. Now, in this case, I could have gone, so there's a grassy field that's kind of tall, and I couldn't see that wheelchair going through that kind of grass, but you know, it's just an example. And here we got 3 different versions. And if I didn't like it, I can hit generate more, or I can go in and modify my prompt a little bit to make it different. But you can see how easy this is and how quickly you can take care of your photos. I could have used like a reference photo or say similar to, and have it generate something similar. Let's see if I remember how to do that. So if we came to this image We've got the dots. If you can see over here, let me turn on a function for you guys. Make it easier to follow my cursor. Just open the stuff on the screen here. I might have to go on apps. Oh, okay. I don't know where that went. But at any rate, so I want to change the background some more. So I'm going to come up here to dot and say generate similar. And it's going to go and generate similar to this background, some 3 new images. So if there was one out of the original 3 that I thought were pretty good, and I can go and use that to generate new similar ones using that. Could also, this background, you could see it's a lower resolution than the image I took. I can come over here and let's say this is the image I like the best. I come over here and click on this and enhance the background. But in this case, it says the background's too small to enhance. So it's the resolution on it, it's too small to enhance it at this point. Let's change what we're seeing here, generate grassy field, and let's call it baseball field. And hit generate. If I spelled field properly. Generate. And let's give it something, hopefully that's a little more realistic because that wheelchair is not going through that deep grass. Yeah, it's got us on the infield. There we go. So it's standing on third base or something. All right. Let me show you a couple of the other tools. Let's go back to the original image here. I'm going to revert. So let's say I wanted to get rid of some of the vehicles in the background here. So I can select with the object tool, select that object and select everything else in the background and just replace that. So let's generative fill just those portions. And I can leave it blank and just hit generate. And Photoshop will know that I've left it blank and I'm leaving it up to Photoshop to generate a new area there. What it's going to do is it looks at the surrounding areas to what I've selected and replaces it. So in this case, it saw it was a parking lot and it gave me additional parking lot with some different images on it. Oh, that one's really strange. Sometimes you get some really strange stuff. But you can see here, there's a similar picture to the original, which we look at that, it's a parking lot with vehicles in it. And I selected the vehicles and said generate similar. So it continued with the parking lot theme and got rid of it. But that's how you can remove stuff that's very distractive in an image, just by allowing Photoshop to replace it. For instance, you see this little panel here. I might want to replace that panel. So I'm going to use the quick selection tool, come down here and select that panel area. And if I just wanted to get rid of that because it was a distraction in the image, I can come down and make that my selection and then generative fill that and allow the AI to determine what it wants to fill there. So hit generate. And hopefully it just gets rid of that. Looks like a metal platform or something there. And it replaced it with something strange there. There we go. Getting better. So you can see how I can quickly get rid of distractions in a photograph just by allowing the AI to replace it with something that it feels is appropriate. Any questions at this point? Curiosities? No? Okay. Let's take a look at, let's see if I can figure out how to do the generate image. That's something brand new. So if we come up here and close this picture, don't save it, and generate a new, or open a new file. All right, here's a new file, and it's just a blank screen. And I'm going to come down here to generate image. Click on that, and I believe I should get a dialog box. Yeah, here, let me drag it over. See if you can see this. Do you see the dialog box that I just dragged into the image here? Is that available to you? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can see here, this gives me a dialog box that allows me to generate a new image. It could be an artistic image or a photographic quality image, and it could be based on my prompt. Or I can use a similar image and say, create a new image similar to one of these on the side here. You see these are very artistic, but I could select and generate a new image based on one of these. But let's go ahead and generate a new image just on a prompt. And I don't know, let's say gorilla in a cage. Or yeah. I don't know. I'm just typing anything in here, folks. I could use some suggestions. And I'm going to make it, let's make it artistic in this case. And I'm not going to choose a reference image because I don't see anything that would be similar here. Or maybe I could use the orangutan here, but, and I can add various effects. So you can make it, you can add different types of effects and materials and all kinds of things. I can make it look like a charcoal drawing or metallic. All kinds of different things. So let's go ahead with the charcoal. And I'll generate, and it's gonna, from scratch, generate an image based on my prompt. And this is gonna be an artistic image, not a photographic quality image. So there's a gorilla in a cage. It's using the charcoal effect. And you can see what it generated, 3 different versions of it here. And I could say I like this one the best, and I can come up here and say generate similar, and it'll go and generate 3 more. If I didn't quite care for the ones that were there, but that one was the closest. Let's see if it can generate something more, a little meaner. Boy, these are very mean gorillas, aren't they? But it is at the artistic setting. So let's close this, not save it, and let's go up and generate a new image, new file. Blank screen, and I'm going to say generate an image. In this case, I'm going to say photographic. And let's use the same prompt and see what it does. To show a difference between the artistic and the photographic. And I'm just going to go ahead and generate. Now this is just creating a complete image from the AI. So that's not bad. This is pretty realistic looking, right? Now here you can see this one's kind of strange. It's got a mistake here where the nose is coming through the bar. So you wouldn't use that one, but this one's not bad. Just from AI. So you could see the power of the artificial intelligence here. You can, from scratch, generate new images. If I needed to use this as a background or for a story, saying that I went to the zoo and I never did, but generate a picture like this and say I was at the zoo and saw this poor gorilla behind a cage. I could.
Excuse me, Jeff. Quality wise, you had mentioned that the background on one of them said it didn't have enough information to make it more dense or whatever. What is the quality of these? Is it meant strictly for web or on screen, or is it also for print?
Well, the quality, it's not up to 4K resolution. So I mean, you could take a look here even at the hairs on the gorilla. They're not really high res. They're all a little blurry and a little lower res. It's pixelated. So if I was to enlarge this, you would see that it's pixelated. It's not photographic quality. Now, again, with Adobe, it gives you the capability to generate it and make it higher quality, but unfortunately not when you generate a full image like this. When you replace a background or replace a portion of an image, like you take a garbage can out of an image, and it substitutes in a new area for where that garbage can was, it might be in lower res, and you can go in and use the resolution enhancement capability and upgrade that resolution of that portion of it to try to better match your initial image. As far as where you could use it, that's all up to you. I mean, you could print a very low resolution image still. You could put a low resolution image up on the web or use it wherever you want. It's all up to your requirements on how high a resolution you need it. So that's more of a subjective question there, Pete. I don't know if that answers your question, but
It does.
you can see that it even from scratch, it generates pretty damn good resolution. And if you're taking an image and replacing either the whole background or just something that's a distraction like a garbage can, you can enhance that resolution so that it could get pretty close that even a trained eye wouldn't be able to tell that it's something that's been substituted and that it's lower resolution than your original image.
I'm wondering whether or not instead of replacing a background, for instance, can you blur it?
Oh, once you have it replaced, you have it as a mask, as a separate image. You could do all kinds of stuff to it. Yeah, you could do whatever you'd like to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And in fact, there's new capabilities here. Let me open up another picture again. Let's go back to my cousin's picture there. So the background here is a little blurry. They're nicer focused here. But let's say we really want to, instead of replacing this background, as you suggested, Pete, we just want the background to be less visible, let's say. Even with this image, we can come up here and go to the camera raw filter. And then I can bring up a tool here where I can select the subject. And you can see automatically, instead of having to go through and manually mask out the subject here, I'm using the AI and it's gone in and selected the subject very quickly. But I can come down here and, well, no, I'm sorry, I don't even need to do this. I can come in here, cancel. And in the development mode, go back to camera, development mode, I can come down to, I think it's in optics. No, detail. Lens blur. Okay, there's a function another AI function. And I'm gonna apply it here. And it's thinking, it's analyzing the image. And it's gonna determine what my subject is and what the background is and add a blur to the background. And the blur is adjustable. I can say, I want the blur to be even heavier. And drag it up and allow it to blur that background even more. We can change where the blur is, or what it's considering the background. So I can see how I move this box over to the right, and it brought the blur forward in the image and kept the back in focus. So I can change an image completely and say, okay, I want the back in focus or the front. If this was more in focus in the original image, you would see that. That the back would be completely in focus and the subject in the front here would be out of focus. But you can change all these things now using AI through Photoshop. And we can even visualize a depth map here. So it's looking at, you can see the different shades of color that are being represented here are what the AI has determined to be the depth map of the image. And we can take and modify this. I can grab this blur brush and say, the only thing I want in focus is their faces. And I'm painting out the rest of the depth map then. I'm going to do this very quickly here. Let me enlarge this brush very quick. Boom, boom, boom. And make everything in the front out of focus. Everything in the back in purple is out of focus. The only thing we're going to leave in focus is their face. So let's go back and take it out of this. And there you go. The only thing in focus is their face. Everything else in the image is out of focus. Does that answer your question about whether or not I can take the background out of focus?
It does. It's great.
Very quick, very easy. Now, of course, with this image, I think the better idea is to get rid of these porta potties completely. And I'm going to cancel that. So there's the other tool here. A new tool in Photoshop is called the Remove tool. Come in and do a selection here. Select these porta potties. I'm just going to do a very quick selection. And I'm going to just hit generative fill. Let's get rid of the porta potties. I didn't select the shadow down here. I should have got rid of that too, but like I said, I just did a very quick selection. And there's one version. Another version. These look like garbage cans. So I don't know if that's much better than the porta potties, but we could have typed in something here and just say again forest, and generate a new background based on that forest, on the prompt of forest, and get rid of the background entirely. So it looked at seeing porta potties and it's substituted it with something else. So you can see you got to play around with it at times if you don't like what it came up with. But this is much better background than the porta potties. I'd have to say that. Very quickly, very easily. Let's go on to another tool. The enhancement brush. I haven't used this yet, but let me see. So here's the adjustment brush tool.
Oh, really? Is that true?
I guess so.
Right now, my adjustment is brightness and contrast, and I've got a brush, and I'm going to increase the brush size, and I'm gonna brush, let's say I want to lower the brightness of the background here, or in this case, it's brightening it. So in this case, I can just brush in that adjustment very quickly. And I can come to the adjustment here.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Folks, if you could turn
That's my
on
sweetie, of course.
the background.
It'll be over about 1.
Okay.
So this is an adjustment brush. Let's go back to the adjustment brush and choose a different adjustment brush. Um, let's put on color balance. So I might want a different color balance in the background here, and I'm going to make the background a bit redder. But I could brush, you could brush that in. In this case, it's chosen the whole thing. Add a new adjustment. Hue and saturation. And let's lower the saturation of the background. So you can see here, I'm painting out the saturation in the background. Let's lower it completely so it changes it to black and white. So this is an adjustment brush. You used to have to select the background and then put the adjustment in, but in this case, you can just paint it in. So there's a way to make my subject stand out from the background. They're in color, the background's adjusted down, and I can lower the brightness or increase the brightness. All kinds of different things. Change the hue. Well, in this case, it's black and white. If it wasn't, I had some saturation, we can change the hue and make it look real strange. All kinds of different things you can do here with these tools, but much quicker using AI. Let's take a look at the text tool real quick. Let's see if I wanted to add text to this. We can choose from a bunch of different fonts. So see, these are the fonts that are loaded up on my system right now. So I can change it to, let's say, Helvetica or something, Arial. And type in Cousins. And increase the size of that. Let's make it much larger. But now, if I select, I haven't used this yet, but let's give it a try. If I select the letters here, if I want to try a different font that I don't have, here we go. The button's right there. More Adobe fonts. So previously I would have to go out, if I didn't like any of the fonts I had and I was looking for some specific font, I would have to go out to Adobe, find the font I wanted, download it, install it, and restart Photoshop to bring that font into my font list here to make it available. All very long steps, but now I can go out and just click on more Adobe fonts and bring up a list of all kinds of different fonts from Adobe.
There's no extra charge?
Some of the fonts you're going to pay for, many of them are free. I've never paid for a font. I can always find a font that's free that is good for my purposes. So you can see they got all kinds of different ways to search through fonts because they have thousands of fonts. You have to narrow down what kind of fonts you're looking for. So I might want a font that's a serif font. So we can click on that and get the serif. So we might want sans serif. So no serifs at all. All kinds of different ways to search through here. But I'm gonna just ignore that for now. But if I liked Anka here, if I like that file, I can add it to my family and it automatically would install it and make it available to me in Photoshop. I'm not gonna add it right now. Let's go back out to Photoshop. So that's the update to the text tool. Makes it much quicker and easier. Let's do a generative expand. So that you can see this image that's up on screen right now is square. But let's say I needed an oblong, a wider image. We can come up and grab the crop tool, and I can grab and expand the sides of the image out. And now you see down here in my toolbar, I have a function called generative expand. If I hit this, the AI will look at the image and try to expand this area to match the current image. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to expand it, and I'm not going to type anything in. I'm just going to let the AI figure out what it should put in here. I could type something in, but I'm not going to in this case. I'm going to generate and let it try to expand my image, make it wider for me. Now that background, I did all kinds of strange effects earlier there, so it's not photographic quality. But boom, you can see it completed. It even completed this guy. He was only partially in the image before. Here I can. That's how much of him we had before. We don't even see his whole foot. It finished his foot. It used a similar shoe, completed his foot. It looked at him. He looked like a maintenance worker, so it gave him a glove. I don't know what this little pink area is there. I'd have to fix that. But it continued this background. The fence continues out. This fencing here continued out, the forest and the ground here. One thing that it did wrong is it took a look at my signature down here, and it expanded that kind of strangely. So I'd have to fix that. But you can see how the AI allows you to fix things. And I did this with an image of my aunt and cousins where that was taken back in the 1950s. And they cut my aunt in half. Whoever took the picture had my aunt cut in half. But it was a beautiful picture, and I expanded it using the generative expand, and it just filled her in, and it did a great job. So that's generative expand. So many things you can do here. Any questions? Any curiosities? Kind of fun stuff, right?
Does photographic elements do any of this?
No, just Photoshop. Not the Adobe Photoshop Elements. Does not have these capabilities. No, I don't think so. So you would have to use Adobe Photoshop to do this. Eventually, I bet you they put these capabilities in Elements also, but it probably won't be there for some time, maybe years.
Just question, Jeff, when will this, I missed some of this, when will this presentation be up on YouTube?
When I get a chance to do the conversion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess, it all depends on how much time I have to do the editing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, for instance, I just got from doing the last meeting. I converted the recording from the last meeting, and I did the editing yesterday and got that up on YouTube yesterday. So it took me 2 weeks yesterday, but some cases I have time to get it done real quick down.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll try to. Anybody else with anything? No? I hope that was fun. I hope you could got an idea of the cool tools that they're adding into Photoshop. Not only does it do things that really, like does it generally expand to complete the rest of this guy that was not in the original image. Think about if I wanted to do this manually, I would have to try to paint in this guy out here. I'm not artistic. I'm not capable of doing that. I would have to eliminate him. But if it was somebody I wanted in the image, using the AI to fill them in is just amazing. And just the capabilities of the AI to save you so much time. Like I suggested earlier, where I had a picture from Petra in Egypt, and there was all kinds of people in the picture standing in front of the I forgot the name of the structure, but the ancient structure, and I wanted all the tourists out of the picture. It took me 5 hours a couple of years ago to get rid of it. And it's not because I'm not skilled at this. It's just that tedious to try to remove people from a picture and replace that area where they were with the background and make it look realistic. Took 5 hours of concentrated time. And I did it in less than 15 minutes using some of the AI tools. And it looked better than what I did some years ago. So
Probably because there's a lot of pictures of that treasury or whatever it is online.
yeah, that's the word I'm for, the treasury.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It uses the AI and use the possible images capability out there. But so it's interpolating an image of the treasury that doesn't match my image. So it has to interpolate it and do the fill-in from there. And that's where artificial intelligence just does some amazing work.
It's a little disturbing to think of how much abuse this could create.
Yes, yes, indeed. And they're starting to bring this artificial intelligence capabilities into video editing software, where you can grab an image, a still image, and generate video from it. And I've seen some beta versions of software that can do this, where you could take a picture of me, let's say I'm standing there, and it's a still image, bring me into a video and have me now walking through the video and talking at the same time. And my mouth is moving and everything looks quite realistic. So yes, it is very scary where this could go.
One of the things with the Adobe, I believe, is all their AI is based on Adobe stock images. So there's a lot of, it's not just scouring everything in dubious sources on the web. It's coming out of their stock images, copyrights. You don't need to worry about that. And you don't need to worry about strange things.
Right, yeah, but this, what you're referring to is just Adobe, but you could see that the technology in general, how it could be dangerous in the future, not necessarily through Adobe, but other sources, other
Hey,
applications.
Jeff, there's no question it will be used incorrectly. But the question then becomes, is this something that they could actually realize it had been done by AI as opposed to an individual or an actual photo or whatever?
Well, it depends on how ethical the company is that's making the software. Now, Adobe, the video editing capability within Adobe Premiere that they showed off, the capabilities, what Adobe has done is that part of the metadata embedded in the video image itself are hidden hidden indications that the image that it generated is not real, so that an investigator can open it up and get those indications to say this is fake video, this is not real. But that would be Adobe because they're being ethical. But there could be other capabilities out there that they're not going to be ethical, and they can generate fake video that looks perfectly legitimate.
Wow. That's crazy. In other words, there's no need to be actual legitimate in essence.
There's no need.
Well, in other words, there's no requirement, let's say, to be to be honest about it.
There's no controls, universal controls that would stop somebody from writing a piece of software that could do it, illegally or.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's why there is such a scare about AI in the future. I mean, the government will try to come out with rules. I mean, they're debating that in the Senate right now in different areas of the government to come out with rules to control these capabilities, but those rules will only apply to somebody who wants to follow the rules, right? If you don't want
Like all rules, correct.
like all rules. Certainly a company like Adobe is going to follow the rules that the government sets, because they're a legitimate company. But who says that somebody in China or Russia couldn't modify a video to make it seem like one of our political candidates is somebody that you don't want to vote for because this is what he said. He said this.
And that's about to happen.
It's about to happen. Oh, it already has. It already has, Pete.
I know.
Doesn't look too realistic at this point, the tools that are out there and what they're doing. But a year from now, as fast as this is moving, 1 year from now, that will look realistic. But hopefully, who knows, how they're going to be able to control it. But for my purposes, in Adobe Photoshop, these tools are fantastic, save me tons of time, and do things that are I'm just not capable. I can't paint that guy in. I'm not an artist.
This is one of the best uses of AI, I would think.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Save so much time and make images, improve images so quickly, with such accuracy. It's just fantastic. And I love it. Okay, that's the Photo SIG.